Hi, welcome to another video. If you were to ask me to summarize the June month for AI, then I wouldn't say that it was a month of big models that are crazy, but instead I would say that the month was actually the month of local and small models that you can run locally. This isn't to say that the bigger models were bad, but the performance of the new local models have been pushed a lot. You have models like Gemma, Ornith, and everything, which is crazy to see. But there's another model now called Agents A1. It is a 35B mixture of experts agentic model built by InternScience, which is actually the company which has made models like the InternLM in the past. InternScience is basically the team out of the Shanghai AI laboratory, and they've released this one under the Apache Tuslars license, which means you can use it for whatever you want, even commercially, so that's great. The model is actually based on QN 3.535B A3B. The A3B part means that even though the total parameter count is 35 billion, only about 3 billion parameters are active at any given time. This is why it runs fast locally. You get the knowledge of a 35B model with the speed of a 3B model, which is just amazing for local use. Their whole tagline is scaling the horizon, not the parameters. Instead of making the model bigger, they trained it on really long agentic trajectories, about 45,000 tokens each, on average, with full action, observation, and verification traces. So, the model has literally been trained on how to work like an agent, not just how to chat. This one seems like a really good local model. It has a 256K token context window as well. This model is actually comparable to Top Gun open models like Kimi and DeepSeek. For an example, on HLE, it scores about 47.6. which is a touch below 54 from Kimi, but hey, it's better than other models in the same parameter bracket. And it's not just HLE either. On SEAL 0, which is a long horizon search benchmark, it scores 56.4, and that is actually the overall state of the art. It beats Kimi K2.6, it beats DeepSeek V4 Pro, and it even beats GPT 5.5 on the extra high reasoning setting. A 35B model beating trillion parameter scale models at search, that's crazy. On GAIA, it gets about 96, which is right behind DeepSeek V4 Pro at 98 and ahead of GPT 5.5 at 87. On BrowseComp, it gets 75.5, which is the best among the 35B class models, though the frontier models are still clearly ahead there. The instruction following numbers are really good too. On IFBench, it scores 80.6, and on IFEval, it scores 94.8, and both of those are overall state-of-the-art results, above every frontier model they compared against. This matters a lot for agentic use, because an agent that can't follow instructions is basically useless no matter how smart it is. In Frontier Science Olympiad, it even outperforms the bigger models, though take that with a bit of grain of salt at the very least. It scores 79 there against GPT 5.5 78, and on Frontier Science Research, it scores 40 while GPT 5.5 only gets about 27. Now these numbers are from their own report, so again, grain of salt. But even if they're somewhat inflated, the model is clearly doing something right in the science domain, which kind of makes sense, because InternScience is literally a science-focused lab. This is not a multimodal model unlike Gemma, which is multimodal, so this is a bummer for sure. They say that it supports tool use quite well. They say it supports function calling and external tools, including APIs, code interpreters, search engines, and task environments. It also handles extended conversations and documents while preserving coherence, recall, and multi-step state. Then it also tracks detailed constraints across diverse domains, from scientific research prompts to structured tool workflow. The way they trained it is also pretty interesting. It's a 3-stage process. First, full domain supervised fine-tuning. Then they train separate domain-level teacher models. So one specialist for search, one for code, one for tool use, and so on. Finally, they distill all of those teachers back into one student model. Basically, a bunch of specialists compressed into a single generalist. I believe this is going to become the standard recipe for small agentic models because it clearly works. Now, let's get straight to the point. So, I won't be testing it on the Kingbench 3 prompts. You may ask why. Well, because it will score a 0 here. It is not a frontier model by any means, but the model definitely punches above its weight in structured output, tool calling, and so on. If you know, then I had also covered Ornith last week, and it was the best model if you want to run it locally. It was based on Gemma, so the performance was somewhat good in terms of hallucinations. This model is definitely better. This model leans more towards thinking than something like Ornith, but it glitches less often. Yes, a bigger question, like a maths question, can make it spiral down a thinking tornado. But it does finish eventually, and mostly it makes good answers. The model is even better at coding. It can do good edits. It doesn't glitch and remove the whole file or anything like that, and it sticks to the directory that it is working in and doesn't do weird stuff at all. I used it via LM Studio. You can just go to LM Studio and get it installed from there. There are already quantized versions up for LM Studio, OLlama and llama.cpp, so you don't need the full BF16 weights. A 4-bit quant fits comfortably on a Mac with 32 gigs of unified memory. It's pretty simple and easy to install. When serving, I'd recommend you to keep the context length at about 128K instead of the whole 256K. One more thing to note here is the sampling settings. They recommend a temperature of 0.85, top P at 0.95, and a presence penalty of 1.1. You can set all of these in the LM Studio model settings, and I'd recommend that you actually do it because the model can get a bit repetitive on default settings. The model works really fast, at least on Mac. Once that is set up, you can use it with Hermes and Zed. I use the Hermes desktop, so I can go to it, and then I can just select the LM Studio Agents A1 model, and it starts working. It is great at basic stuff like you can ask it to do web searches, do some basic research about anything, summarize documents, pages, mail, and draft new mails, send them, and so on, and it works really well. Most of these stuff are also generally sensitive, and you may not want to share it with a company over an API, so this one comes in handy for sure. It also works quite well with skills and is good at instruction following as well. So yeah, with Hermes, it works quite well. You can also use it with Zed. To use it with Zed, you can just go to Zed and in the settings, make sure that you have configured LM Studio accordingly, and then you can use the model in Zed as well. I think that this model is actually good. It is good at editing files, doing basic summarization of code base, and so on. If you want to serve it more seriously, they also support SGLang and VLLM with OpenAI compatible endpoints, but for most people, LM Studio is just the easier route. Another thing that I really like is that they've open sourced their entire evaluation framework as well, so all the benchmark numbers I mentioned can actually be reproduced by anyone, which is a level of transparency that a lot of the bigger labs simply don't give you. They also have related projects like InternAgent and Agents K1, so this doesn't look like a one-off release. They're building a whole family of agentic models, and I'll definitely be keeping an eye on them. It's a really good model if you want to use a model that is local and privacy-friendly for sure. If you ask me, this local agent trend is the most exciting thing happening in AI right now. A year ago, running a model that could reliably do tool calling on your own machine was basically a dream. Now you have a 35B model with only 3 billion active parameters that beats trillion parameter models on search and instruction following, runs fast on a Mac, and is fully Apache licensed. This is exactly the direction I want the industry to keep going in. Overall, it's pretty cool. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you liked this video, consider donating through the Super Thanks option or becoming a member by clicking the Join button. Also, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, bye.